You are listening to The Long Shot. It is a podcast. Good afternoon, good morning, good day, good night, good dawn, good dusk. Good New Year.
Oh, wow.
Good dusk.
I mean, eventually, right?
Well, no, it's the Jewish New Year this week.
Oh, right.
So Happy New Year. I am your host. My name is Sean Conroy. Yes, go ahead.
Are you opening candy wrappers right underneath the microphone?
Yes.
Okay, because there's a clickety clack, click, click, crunchity sound coming. I thought you might want to know because it's the kind of thing that I feel like would annoy you on listen back.
Right, but as long as it's only happening when I'm talking, it doesn't bother me. I can't hear it. Who cares? No, I think there was an envelope under my hand. So. And now there's fucking sirens. I was actually thinking about that because I turned my phone off just now, right before we started, and I kind of in my head was like, who cares? So it goes ding in the middle of the show.
Right.
And like it reminded me of 12 years ago how Jorge would just lose his mind before we recorded. If there was any possibility, like it just
right. If anyone had an electronic anywhere.
Right. So Amber Kenny is my co-host.
Oh, hi.
We are here on the show. And we always like to start the show with a segment that we call Checking In. So why don't we start today with Amber, who I think had a busy week.
I did. I spent the weekend in Orlando, Florida, which is
home of Disney World.
Yes, and
Disneyland. Disney World or Disneyland?
It's Disney World there.
Disney World, yeah.
And Universal Studios, which is where I was there. Mm-hmm. It was for work. I flew out Thursday, and I had one of those flights where I had connections in every city in the United States. So
you're very popular.
No, I mean, the plane had to stop.
Oh, I see. You stopped more than once on the way to Orlando?
Yes.
Oh my God. What a nightmare.
So I'm telling you that because it was like, I had a Thursday morning flight and I
arrived Friday afternoon.
Exactly. Like, yeah, it was just like, it was my own doing. My boss kept making fun of me, but I was like, I want to fly out of Burbank. And he's like, you should.
So if you'd gone from LAX, you could have gotten
a direct
flight.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
But one of my coworkers did fly out of LAX, and so many things went wrong with his flight and the plane. I still beat him there. So
it all worked out.
Yeah.
Where did you have to stop?
So I got off the plane in Phoenix.
Mm-hmm.
And then this is where things could have gone much more awry.
Your connecting flight was out of Albuquerque?
Well, yeah, I got off on Phoenix. Everything's good. Mm-hmm. We're doing great. And then I see what my gate is. And I go to that.
Is it 4? It's always 4.
I have no idea. I go to the gate. And again, I'm flying
gate 4
to Orlando.
Right.
And it says New Orleans. And so I was like, well, that's not the flight I'm taking because I'm going to Orlando.
And it's not even the same. It's not even like it could have rearranged the letters by accident.
Right. Well, and I was like, well,
DiNarlo, what the hell is that?
Surely this New Orleans flight will load and take off, and then immediately the Orlando plane will be here or something. Anyway, I could have missed my flight. I was sitting there just like, okay, waiting. And then they were like, Amber Kenny. And I walked up and I was like, you called? And they're like, you're like the only person who hasn't got on the plane. And I'm like,
right this way, Miss Kenny. You have connections in towns all over the country.
Well, I was like, but I'm going to Orlando. And they're like, it is gonna eventually be
Not
there.
yet.
And I was like, that's confusing. Like, how was I? And anyway, and then I re-looked at my ticket, and in like the smallest, teeniest, tiniest, you need a magnifying lens, it says like stopping in New Orleans. But like, you'd think that would be kind of a headline.
Can I ask what font you used for this? Because it's very quiet. It's a very insignificant font.
So in Phoenix, I got on the plane to New Orleans. But then once we were stopped in New Orleans, I had to stay on the plane.
Yeah. No French Quarter, ma'am, please.
No. But that was also interesting because I forgot, because I stopped in so many other cities, that I was going to Orlando, and it is famously a Disney city, like you said. And so in almost the whole plane emptied in New Orleans. And what got on were like large, and I don't mean large like body size, I mean like many children, large families, all wearing like matching Mickey Mouse t-shirts with Mickey Mouse luggage. And I was like, oh.
By the way, that is the thing that I remember most from Disney World. Not children, large people. Like just gigantic people.
I wasn't saying that though.
Gigantic ice cream sundaes and limping a lot. That's the thing I remember from the last time. I'm not even joking. It was crazy. Everybody there was way overweight, had a cane or a walker or a cart, and was eating a gigantic ice cream sundae. It was the whole park. But you're not talking about that. You're saying there was a bunch of children on your plane, which is always a fun flight.
Well, and the pandemic's over. I feel like I was the only person on the plane wearing a mask. I was like,
President said it's over.
Okay. Mm-hmm. All right.
Yeah.
So, and no one, it was Southwest where you can pick your seats. So no one wanted to sit by me because I was like the weirdo wearing a mask. And I was like, fine by me.
Yeah, great. Awesome. Excuse me, are you Hannibal Lecter by any chance? What's with the mask?
And so, yeah, it was a day of just flying, tons and tons of flying. Then
by the way, I give you credit because I went to a comedy show last night. I don't know if you're familiar with comedy, but
I've heard of comedy.
Yeah. And there was a bunch of people there, and I sat in the audience, but kind of nobody that close to me. Mm-hmm. And I had a mask in my pocket, and I pulled it out, and then I was like, no one else is wearing a mask.
I know.
I'm not putting one on.
No, peer pressure is like real.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I was like, we'll get to it. I didn't like wear a mask the whole weekend, but I wore it on the planes.
Yeah.
And I'm a real hero. I don't know.
Yeah. Like I said, I give you credit. I mean, COVID is still this is too personal, but my mother literally has COVID right now.
Oh no, I'm
has
so
never
sorry.
had it before and finally got it. I mean, she's
oh my gosh, she was like one of the last holdouts. But
real.
Honestly, that was way too personal.
I know.
I'm uncomfortable.
Jorge, can we bleep that out?
I haven't
so
worked
everybody
for this podcast in 8 years. I'm sorry to hear that. I hope it just sucks to get.
Yeah, of course. It's awful. It's truly awful. I mean, it is just terrible.
Yeah. It's no good.
So good for you for doing what you did.
Thank you. Yeah. I mean,
I'm going to nominate you for Anderson Cooper's Hero of the Year award.
Okay, I'll take it. But yeah, so I flew. The other thing was
Phoenix, New Orleans, Orlando.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a Johnny Cash song,
right? Burbank, Phoenix,
Burbank, Phoenix, Orlando.
He really liked hanging out with me. I think Smudgy missed me while I was gone this weekend.
Makes sense.
So why, I guess I'm telling this story out of order almost, but why I was going to New Orleans is why I was going to Orlando was
why you were going to Orlando,
Phoenix.
Can you not print these tickets in Insignifica anymore?
Invisible ink somehow. No, but we were throwing a Gabby's Dollhouse, which is one of our preschool TV shows.
I know Gabby.
You did fucking good. We're trying to spread the word grassroots style. So, a Gabby's Dollhouse dance party at Universal Orlando, and again, because it was, I don't know, they wanted me there to do social coverage. Like, truly, I feel like they could have found someone in Florida to take pictures of the event and post them online, or even send them to us and then we post them online. But they wanted me to be there. So off I went. It was actually a choice between me and my direct manager. The guy above us was like, one of you has to go. And both of us were, it was like, when we heard about it, it was like the height of COVID infections, you know, in Los Angeles. And both of us were like, I don't want to go. Right. But
I love Gabby's Dollhouse. I love dance parties.
Right.
Two of my favorite things, but I do not care for COVID, so I would prefer not to go.
But
does your direct manager ever send you DMs?
Yeah.
You ever get DMs?
I do. I do. I never thought of it like that. Mm-hmm. Wow. But a couple things. I have never been to Florida. I just had this like gut instinct that it would be good for me and my career or whatever to go. And my direct manager has a baby. So it's like, I don't have a baby.
Yes. Yeah.
I don't have a baby.
A dog, which is
I don't have a baby though. So it feels like anyway. So I offered myself up as like tribute. Anyway, the event was Saturday. So I flew in, I got there Thursday night. Before I got there, it was kind of a big deal because it turned out it was a small amount of people going, and it was all like bigwigs in the company and me. So it was kind of like one of these things is not like the other. And I got invited by somebody.
Sorry, I forgot my wig. I don't.
I got invited the day before I was flying out, I got an invitation from one of these bigwigs assistants to a dinner in Orlando.
Nice.
And I was like, okay. But then it was like 20 minutes after my flight is supposed to land. And I was like, I don't think I'm going to make it. But I'll try. Anyway, turns out
still on the plane. Order me a steak and a martini.
I'm in New Orleans. But it turns out everyone's flights were anyway. So I was there for it, but it was basically just like appetizers and drinks in the hotel lobby restaurant. But it was still very like, I have a seat at the table, whatever that means.
Now, after the lobby was the after party or no?
No. Yeah, I never got, because it's a 3-hour difference. But then I also kept having to work such early mornings.
Oh God!
So I'm like maybe just now caught up on sleep.
Traveling
really.
west to east is really, really difficult.
Well, and we would have call times at 6 a.m. And so I was like, that's me getting there at 3 a.m. You guys, like this is insane.
That means I have to go to bed at 9 p.m., which means 6 p.m. Did you ever try to go to bed at 6 p.m.? It doesn't work.
I'm pretty good at it. But no. And yeah, our Gabby's Dollhouse is the one show we have that has a live action element where Gabby herself is a human girl and then she goes into the dollhouse and turns into an animated character. So
weird.
I spent the weekend with this actress, and the head of my department. Like it was just a lot of very surreal things. Like we went to, there's this place called Toothsome I don't know what it's called. It's Toothsome something, but it's on the city walk there. And it's a steampunk themed chocolate restaurant.
Sweet. Very up to date and current.
And they're known for their like big milkshakes. The food was
They're big steampunk milkshakes.
yes.
All their milkshakes wear tiny sunglasses and top hats.
Well, okay. So it's funnier if you know who he is, but the guy who is my boss's boss, who I was there with like the whole time, like basically like his little puppy. We went to lunch there with the star of the show and the head of PR and him. And he's like a type A. He works really hard. He likes things a certain way, precise dude. And so we're sitting in this restaurant and he's across from me. And all of a sudden he brightens up and starts waving with this huge smile on his face. And so I thought like he saw a family member. No joke. Like the amount of excitement. And I turn around and there's two costume characters that aren't even from anything. They were invented for this stupid steampunk chocolate restaurant.
That guy has suspenders on.
He was
Look at his boots. They're very high.
He was so excited. And I was like, what is wrong with you? Like
he's not a robot, but he's wearing weird metal greaves on his arms.
He was a robot. There was a full robot guy.
Amazing.
It's just funny when you see, like, when you know someone pretty well in one context and you see them outside of it and being like I love people finding delight in things, but it's just like, oh, like you're a dork. I had no idea. That's so fascinating. I would have never guessed.
I'm with you. Like I agree that everybody should find delight in things, but then there are things that you should not find delight in.
Well, it's just funny. Like we were with a literal child who was like, I guess, like no one was as excited as he was.
A kid being like, what the fuck? What is happening right now?
So that was an absolute delight. I had, I was laughing really hard at that.
Sir, we have burgers and fries. And just so you know, all of our ovens are powered by bellows, operated by... Be careful of flying craft, sir.
It's so weird. Like,
yeah, that's bizarre.
I would have loved to have seen the
brainstorming session.
Yeah, well, and also the meeting, because it's very hard to get anyone to invest. Oh, it's huge too. P.S. It's like
huge in terms of size, or huge in terms of like there's a big line outside.
No, size. You know how I don't know if you've ever been to City Walk, like how Bubba Gump is like 3 floors.
I've been to City Walk, but I've never been to Bubba
But
Gump.
it's like it can seat 1 million people.
Yeah.
That's how it is too.
Right. And one of the problems, I'm sure, is that the place is so crowded all the time that there's no way that they like, because I see there being a meeting where somebody goes, guys,
what are we doing?
The steampunk thing is over. Like, can we rethink the theme on that? Like, let's come up with something. But it's like the restaurant's doing great. It's packed all the time and it's huge, you know? So there's no way to argue with success.
Right.
There's like one person who's like really into it and is like, it's doing great, you know?
They're opening one in Los Angeles. Like we got to hear all about it. It was cracking me up because the head of PR kept calling my boss. He's like, "Are you this restaurant's publicist? Like, what is going on? How do you know all of this stuff?" And we had rehearsals for the show on Friday, and Lila, the actress, had a bunch of press that I got to witness, like her doing.
How old?
How old is she? Mm-hmm. I'm not supposed to say.
How old are the reporters?
I'm also not supposed to say.
I'll have to check on that.
But yeah, it was all, I'm telling this all out of order, but so we were staying at a hotel that was on the Universal grounds, like it was part of City Walk, and they were like in the morning, you could either get on a ferry and I was like, what? What do you mean? Like, how would we get on isn't Orlando landlocked? Like,
yeah.
What are we talking about? But I guess they had built all of the hotels on
a lake,
water, like a fake
Certainly
water.
That's the way Disney World is. All the hotels are on a man-made reservoir, and there's like a steampunk train that goes around and picks people up.
Well, it's exactly how Universal is. But I was just like, I didn't know.
Disney did it first, by the way.
We're well aware of our rankings.
By the way, I think I would be, I could be totally wrong about this, but I feel like if you checked, and I'm not saying you should, but I bet Universal opened in like 1990 or 91, because I remember being in Florida to visit a friend of mine at that time, and Universal was brand new.
Oh,
and
wow.
we went to Universal Studios, like, instead of Disney World. I was like, okay. And we went, and there was not really a lot to do. So we just went to a bar all day. Like, in other words,
right.
we paid like $45 or something for a ticket. And then we just went to a bar and got drunk all day, you know?
Yeah.
It was like, that was the Universal Studios experience.
Ringing endorsement.
But that was a long time ago. I'm sure now they have all sorts of like
it's very
steampunk stuff and like the monkeys. You know,
it seems cooler than the one in Los Angeles.
Sisters display.
But it's also very, very hot. It was my first time in Florida at all.
Mm-hmm.
And it is very hot and very humid. But because of that, everywhere indoors is
freezing.
So air conditioned. Like, and so if anything, that was getting to me, because it would be like the driest, coldest place you've ever been, and then the warmest wet, like it was like hitting you in the face either direction. And I was like, guys, can we just like find a middle ground? But so I was inside so much, and it was so air conditioned, and people are like, oh, the heat, like people just kept talking about the heat in a way that I was like, I'm getting scared. Like, how bad is it? Like, what are you talking about?
If you walk out the door, it's just fire everywhere.
Right?
Just so you know. Don't go outside.
And I guess some of the crew members the day before took the ferry, and they were too sweaty by the time they got there. And so I was like, okay, whatever. Okay. But the head of events, or the man, who cares? Someone who was
wait, too sweaty for what? What were they too sweaty for? Like, in other words,
I know,
you're a crew member. What do you have to do? Oh God, I can't do it. I'm too sweaty.
They just didn't like it, maybe.
Oh, I see. That makes more sense. I'm too sweaty. What do you mean you're too sweaty, Bob? I'm not for anything. I just don't care for it. It's not a good feeling.
But yeah, whoever was in charge of events at Orlando was sort of our little mini ambassadors for the weekend. And so she came in a minivan at our call time at 6 a.m. And so we got into a minivan, and then she drove wherever, like through some employee entrance. And then we were in the park, but in the back, like I still don't really know how to get to Universal Studios. Like, we came such a weird way, and then we're just there.
Amber, look, I'm glad you're here. I am supposed to go out in front of the press and get hit in the face with a pound of powdered sugar. But I'm too sweaty, so I can't do it, because none of it is supposed to stick to me. So
that's the whole thing. But yeah, and then the actual event was Saturday morning. And there were like the time change. Well, the first show was at 9:30, which is 6:30 our time. Mm-hmm. And that's what I was going to bring up was the time change. Like there were certain things. My direct boss was like, hey, get a picture of this and send it to me. And then I'll create a cool post and post it. But I figured out I wouldn't be able to get an image of it till the morning of the event. And I was like, by the time you wake up, the event will be over. Like it makes no sense. So I'm just going to do it on the fly with no sleep under my belt, completely exhausted. And so yeah, I had to be all the way packed and checked out before that 6 a.m. call time. Because my flight was right after the event.
This trip was a fucking nightmare.
I loved it. Well, so we did the multiple shows. They went well. They were big crowds. It was insanely hot. I think everyone was happy.
What's the show? Like, in other words, what does it consist of?
It's Gabby's Cat-tastic Dance Party. So there's like a DJ character and there's a bunch of dancers, and then there's both live action Gabby and then later the like Mickey Mouse head version of the character. So
look,
Lila,
this is a Gabby thing, but we still need to give a little tip of the hat to the steampunk ethos here at Universal. So would you mind holding this tiny black umbrella the entire time you're up there?
But so it's geared towards preschoolers. So it's not, there isn't much of a, there's not, it's like, let's teach you a dance. And it's like step, 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 step. And then everyone does it. Mm-hmm. And then there's a freestyle dance. Like it's pretty
silly and fun.
Yeah. It's just cute and fun.
And I get it now why you're not, it's preschooler. So you're not supposed to say, oh, because she's 46 and we're not supposed to know.
Right.
She looks great.
No, there are entire Reddit threads debating her age. Oh, and it's so weird and gross.
That's bizarre, yeah.
Yeah. Well, but yeah.
But welcome to show business.
The guy in PR that I really like, and I had a lot of fun hanging out with him all weekend because we would just be like about everything. But he's like, I think it stems from people are attracted to her because she's a beautiful girl, and they want they want to not feel creepy. Oh. So they're like, oh, she's 27, and it's like, no, she's not.
I'm surprised I haven't seen that on Fox News because Tucker Carlson is all about that shit at this point.
Ugh. So it went really well, and we were wrapped a bit earlier than expected. So I had some time to kill before my flight. Keep in mind, I'm like sweating profusely.
Amber, what I said about the powdered sugar thing, never mind. You can't do it either.
It's so hot, and I'm running around in the sun, like taking pictures from different angles and all that stuff. So my boss was staying a whole other day because he just wanted to hang out in the park, and he kept being like, are you sure you don't want to stay longer? And I was like, I'm positive.
What is there to do in the park? Like, are there good rides?
It's got like the Harry Potter land, and it's a much better version.
I guess it's the same thing as the one over here, right?
Yeah, but it has way more, and it's better because they have more geography. Like they can actually, like our Universal it's very little. Anyway,
California is a tiny state, so there's no.
So they were already planning on staying a whole day just to be in the park, and our ambassadors at Orlando had hooked them up, so they were going to spend the day with the star of the show on a VIP tour. And a VIP tour means there's somebody who's personally walking you to each attraction. You go to the front of the line. They make reservations for you if you need to.
I'm familiar. Now you understand how I travel from amusement park to amusement park.
Well, because my flight wasn't, I had some time to kill. They were like, come with us on the VIP tour, at least for a little while. Mm-hmm. So it was the most ragtag, surreal group of people. It was that PR guy, the head of my department, the head of all of DreamWorks marketing, the star of the show, and her mom. And we were just like going on a roller coaster. And it was I kept sending pictures to like people at work because I was like, do you understand like what is happening? So that was really fun, but it was all like I hadn't slept really at all the night before. I had already worked a ton. I was sweating my butt off, and now I was doing roller coasters. Then I had to get off and get on a plane for multiple. Like, I guess I don't travel very much anyway. But usually, if I have a flight, like I'm not doing anything else that day.
Yeah,
it's like
of course.
Prepping for the flight. But I was like, I worked and I went to a theme park, and now I'm going on a cross country flight. It was very strange. But
how many stops on the way back?
Just Denver, I believe. Yeah.
Denver's a cool airport.
Yeah, a little haunted. But, and also this made me feel like, all of it made me feel a little bit like, ooh, I'm like a real career girl doing her thing. I still had to do a lot of those posts, which I didn't get to because the event was happening and then I was riding roller coasters. So I got to the airport a tiny bit early still, even after all of that. This is how long of a day it was. And I ordered a hamburger at a restaurant and just like worked while eating in the airport. And I was like, whoa, look at me. I am a career girl. And then I got home and I was so tired, and I was so tired yesterday, and I'm pretty tired today, but I'm getting there.
Tomorrow we'll see.
Yeah. Tomorrow I have to go back to the office already. Mm-hmm.
Teamwork makes the dream work.
But everyone's like, you got so much FaceTime with really important people. And I was like, yeah, I don't know. I can't tell if I guess it's planting seeds. You don't see the fruits of your labor right away. Because it's not like, oh, I hung out with you once. Here's a raise. Like, it doesn't work out that way.
Right. We'll see how it goes when we go to Six Flags, Amber. And if it goes well, we can talk about a raise.
But yeah, it was a very strange, but fun, but strange, but also. Oh, and that was the other thing. Even that day, my boss's boss was like, "Are you sure? Like, we could switch things around if you want to stay." I was like, "I don't want to stay. I want to sleep in my bed. I'm sick of eating fried food."
And as soon as you left, he pulled a piece of paper out of his pocket,
like,
that just said Amber's raise on it,
and like crossed it off. Yeah.
I see. She doesn't want to stay. Oh, well, no raise for Amber this year. Let's go on the King Kong ride.
It was very, very funny and weird. And I'm glad to be back. And that is my checking in.
Nice. Let's see. My checking in is I went to put some boxes in the recycling bin the other day. Mm-hmm. Or the other night, I should say. It was night. That's an essential part of the story. It was the middle of the night. It was probably like midnight or something.
Whoa, that's that's an interesting time to pick to do
I just
that.
Have weird
biorhythm.
Well, I have to, because I have a conference in Florida at 6 a.m. So I have to stay up till. Anyway, I go down to the where the trash bins are, and I'm like, a lot of people in my building are not good about recycling their boxes. They just throw the box in the thing. Mm. You're supposed to rip it, tear it down,
flatten
break it down. Yeah. I'm breaking down the boxes, and I hear all this thumping from the garbage bin. And I'm like, what the hell is that? And I assumed that it was somebody dropping garbage down the chute,
Mm-hmm.
So I turn and look, and I hear another thump, and nothing comes out of the bin. And then slowly a head peeks out from like upside down of a raccoon. And then two more raccoons stick their heads up over the thing. And I'm saying, this is probably an exaggeration, but I would say each of these three raccoons is at least 7 feet tall. But they're huge. They're gigantic raccoons. Right. And I was like, oh, I'll just make one noise and they'll run away. No, sir.
They were like, we're from Los Angeles, bro.
They literally were like, what the fuck is up with you, motherfucker? Like one of them pulled a pack of cigarettes out and just lit up.
Well, to be fair, like it is their shift. Like this is their time.
But it's bright as day down there. Like there's lights in that part of the garage. So it's not like I'm stumbling around in the dark. So the four of us are just in like a weird standoff. And I was like, they could attack me at any second and they would have the advantage of numbers, not necessarily. I mean, I'm saying 7 feet. It was probably more like 6 feet. So I was a little bit taller than each of them.
Right. But combined, they'd be taller.
And when they come at you from different directions, So I just took a box and I was like, because I wanted to finish getting rid of this stuff. But it just felt like I felt threatened in that moment. I felt like they were sizing, like they were not at all scared in the least. They seriously were like,
are you done?
Yeah, let's see what happens. You want to do this or not? Let's dance. What do you say we dance, motherfucker? And I ain't talking about the way we dance on Gabby's Haunted House or whatever the name of that Universal show is. I'm not saying step, 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 step. Everybody shake your hands. I'm saying, let's get into it. So I took a box and I threw it over towards them. And I swear to God, all three of the raccoons went like this. They were so completely blasé and unintimidated by anything. And I was like, I'm getting the fuck out of here. So I left my box there, left the other box I had on the floor, and just like backed away and went back upstairs. So I was like, maybe that's why nobody in the building is breaking their boxes down, because they go down there. The raccoons are like, get the fuck out of here.
This is our bin.
Although probably nobody else is going down there, but still, it was just weird. Like I was creeped out by these raccoons. And what's fucked up is I haven't listened to it yet, but I heard that they recorded a podcast about running into people. Did I talk about how I lost a bunch of stuff from my short film?
I don't think so.
So I won't go into the whole story because it would take me 2 hours, but I got a message from somebody involved with the film who said, hey, I'm trying to put together all the footage so I can start editing stuff, but we're missing several.
Yes, I heard that story. Yeah. But I thought it was all resolved. It was like on another stick or something, but that is not true.
That is not true. Well, it was, but when we sent that one to them, one of the files was corrupted.
No.
Did I not talk about this? Because I don't want to tell the same story twice.
No, where I left off in that story is like, but it's all okay. The file got sent and
everything got sent in.
and like crisis averted.
Right. So I guess the next day after we recorded that podcast, I got another message from them saying everything is here except one of the files is corrupted and we can't. And it turned out that that file contained several takes of one shot. And as you know, when you shoot two people having a conversation, you shoot it three ways. You shoot one direction on one person, one direction on the other person, and then you shoot both of them having a conversation together. Or if it's a bunch of raccoons, you shoot all of them here. And then right here. So you're supposed to shoot it three ways. I was crunched for time. I knew we were going to be struggling to get all the shots we wanted.
Oh, no.
So I decided that there was a way, because of what was happening in that shot, one of the people was leaving the scene. I was like, we can shoot this actor this way, then both of them together, and one actor leaves the scene, and we finish on the other actor. So we're not going to have coverage of each of the actors individually, but we get the two of them together. Well, that was the shot that was corrupted.
No.
So it was, and it's the second to last shot in the entire film. So it was, and somehow it was all on the same, like there were so many things about it that seemed wrong. Like it was all on the same clip, which meant that somehow we had shot it twice without cutting or something like that, which I was very conscious of not doing all day. So anyway, there was, it was crushing. It was like, oh my God, this is so fucked, because to reshoot something like that would mean doubling the amount of money we spent, which I was not going to be able to do.
Well, and it was hard enough to schedule the talent,
getting the actors there and blah, blah, blah. And then it was like, you know, it's that thing of like, well, we'll figure out something else. Like we'll rewrite the script, we'll change something, whatever. But
it's when it's a short, it's also such like a large percentage. Like it isn't like,
absolutely,
oh, we'll lose that scene. And
no. It's not like, oh, we could do exposition in a different scene, you know, and explain what was missing. So part of me was like, okay, we have to figure this thing out. And so there's a number of people involved in this conversation. And there was a lot of like, and I get it, but there was a lot of like, well, these things happen. This happens. It happens. It just happens.
And you're like, okay,
nothing you can do. And I was like, no, this doesn't happen. Like the one thing that we were doing here was getting the coverage of the shots we wanted for the day. So I refuse to accept this is just a thing that happens.
Right.
Is one thing. So people were trying to come up with ideas of like, oh, what if we did it in this program? What if we did it in that program? Can we recover this? And of course, in my head, I went to, my inspiration was Hunter Biden's laptop. I was like, if they can pull shit off Hunter Biden's laptop a year and a half after he dropped it off at some random fucking repair shop, and they can find nude water slide film of him with prostitutes, this fucking thing is there somewhere, you know? So I went outside the conversation. I found somebody else who is
a hacker.
Well, not a hacker, but somebody that I have known for a very long time and who has done a lot of computer video stuff. And started a conversation with him. And he was like, how big is the file that's corrupted? And I said, it's, 12 inches or whatever. He was like, that's too big for it to just be nothing in there. Like there's something in there. Send it to me. So I sent it to him, and within an hour and a half, he sent me back a video that he had taped on his phone of like 37 seconds of the footage on his computer. So he was like, I can't recover all of it, but it's definitely in there and somebody will be able to get it back. And I was like, I swear to God, I almost started crying. I was so relieved.
Of
I was
course.
so complete. I was like, oh, thank fucking God, you know? And then it turned out somebody suggested, which is sort of hilarious. Somebody was like, well, why don't we call the place we rented the camera equipment from and see? There's no chance this would happen, but the cards came with the camera. In other words, all the stuff was recorded onto digital cards that went with the camera. Chances are they
like
wipe those
wiped
as soon as
yeah.
they get them back, but you never know. So somebody got in touch with the rental house, and we had used 8 cards for this, and they had wiped one of them. The rest of them all still had their footage on them. And it turned out the card that this file was on had not been wiped.
Oh my God.
We got it back. So, you know, there's so many different parts of this, but one of them is when people go, this just happens. There's nothing you can do about it. It's like, no, that is not true. Mm-hmm. And then when somebody else goes, probably there's no way this could still be hanging around.
You got to try.
House. They have a procedure. They wipe it as soon as they get it back. That's not true either.
Right.
So we got it back. But then I was like, so our fucking footage has just been sitting in this rental house. So if somebody else rented this camera and got these cards, they would get cards with all the footage from our short on it, which I don't care, except my actors are on there, and somebody could take footage of these actors and go, hey, let's make them say this thing. Or, as you know, when you're shooting something and everybody's mic'd up, people have a tendency to talk while they're mic'd up without thinking about the fact that they're being recorded during that
time.
I was like, why is this, like, on the one hand, I'm grateful that nobody wiped it, so we got it back. But on the other hand,
it's a weird privacy issue.
Shit, you know?
Yeah.
So anyway, it was a whole, and you know, that's the end of the story. So I won't go into all, but it was like, you went on roller coasters at Universal Studios. I went on roller coasters through my life for about 4 days of like, nope, no way, it's gone. And I was like, come on, Hunter Biden, hook me up.
I'm proud of you for not giving up, for like being tenacious about it. Because it's easy to just be like,
yeah, especially because I don't understand all the technology and I don't understand. So my instinct normally would be like, oh, these people know way more about it than I do, so I'm just going to listen to them. But for whatever reason, and probably it's because this is the thing that I directed and I cared so much about, I refused. And I can't say for sure that if I had not refused and been, like you said, tenacious, that they wouldn't have found it. But I don't know that people would have really even looked for it if I had been so insistent, you know? So anyway, I was reading this book called Blood, Sweat, and Chrome. This is all before all this, which is an oral history of the movie Mad Max Fury Road. Which I don't know if you saw that, but I loved that movie. I thought it was great. And obviously,
that's the one with Charlize Theron.
Correct.
Yeah, that was good.
And that was obviously a thing that George Miller, the director, had been developing for, you know, since the early 80s. I mean, for 30 years, he still had this idea of like a better version of the original Mad Max movie. And in this thing, he talks about how, like, very early on when he was living in Australia and like making movies about Australian car culture, which is what eventually led to the Mad Max stuff, and working, I think he was in medical school and he was working as like an ER doctor on the weekends, going to
God,
car accidents to make money so he could shoot his films. And he said, like, when they shot Mad Max, he was not thrilled with it. Like, before they put it together, he felt like they kind of fucked it up and, you know, whatever. And then they sort of started to compile it and he started to realize they had actually made something good and he was happy and whatever. and he said to somebody, God, making this movie was really hard. And this other guy said, making every movie is really hard. And George Miller's thing was he realized that every movie was sort of a rehearsal for the next one. And so I was just kind of trying to take that away from this and go, here are the things that I'm
learning
the next time. And I think I said that last week, but like today I sat down and I wrote like a 74-page email to a friend of mine saying like, these are all the things a friend of mine who is a director and a person who's done this kind of stuff. And I was like, these are all the things that I have been thinking about and have considered and would do differently next time and whatever. And like, what am I missing? What am I, you went to film school. Tell me what I'm doing wrong. So, anyway, happy ending, but very stressful.
Scary. Yeah.
Several days. All right. Well, why don't we just get right into parting shots? Let's do that.
Okay.
And then, I can go book my flight to Universal Studios.
New Orleans. I would have rather gone to New Orleans, to be quite honest.
New Orleans is fun. All right, parting shots, Amber.
Parting shots. I went to the doctor today, and why that's a big deal is I just went for like a checkup, but even the doctor was like, "It has been 6.5 years since I've seen you." Yeah, that's not great. Sorry. I mean, granted, there was a whole pandemic in there, but I don't know. I'm proud of myself for going because that used to be like the scariest thing in the world to me. I still don't love it, but
well, the doctor, unfortunately, the doctor is never like, "Hey, great news! You're the best I've ever seen anybody."
Right, right.
They're always like, "Oof, what's going on with you?" Maybe that's just me.
And I got a flu shot, and then they took a ton of blood for various blood tests that the results haven't even gotten back. But it was so weird because I guess they hit like a good vein. I wasn't looking because I can't look. But then when I looked back, it was like 12 different full vials. I was like, Jesus, you took all of that? Like, it feels like too much. They should invent something where it's like one drop and they do all the tests.
We got to get one for Bobby, one for Timmy, one for Steve. They all do different tests.
That was a Theranos joke.
What's that?
The one drop. No, you don't know what I'm talking about.
I never saw that. I never saw the thing.
Oh, the whole thing was she was trying to invent something that you just have one drop of blood and it does.
She just told people she did, and then everybody believed it, right?
Exactly. And so what she would do for all the trials was she would take the gallons of blood out and then do the one drop and then be like, oh, the gallons are for like to make sure that the test is accurate.
And it was just a total con.
She would just send it to a regular lab every time.
And she made millions and millions of dollars, right? Mm-hmm. Because that's what we're all about these days is the fucking grift. Everything is about the grift. So the doctor said you're fine?
I mean, so far, I don't know. It's funny going to a doctor, being a lady, being completely naked in a room with multiple people, but I did it and here I am. But so this is tying back to my checking in, but I flew out Thursday morning. Mm-hmm. So I wasn't traditionally working Thursday or Friday, even though I was working, and I also definitely worked on Saturday. And then my doctor's appointment was today, Monday morning. So I didn't really start working again till Monday after. And I was like, I don't want to go back to work. I don't know how. I have no rhythm of the normal routine. So tomorrow will be really weird.
People are going to be like, what the fuck are you doing here? You should be in. Can you not write the memos in Whisperetica anymore?
Also, sorry, this is just one last parting shot. On the trip, I was at some meals with some alcohol where mucky mucks were saying things, and they would realize that I was sitting at the table and be like, "Oh shit!" And I was like, "I'm cool. Like, I'm not going to say anything to anyone." But it was really fun to hear that stuff.
So anyway, we're going to murder Bob, and
no, just more like them complaining about people that I also don't like, but they have to very publicly support you. I don't know.
Right. No. I know exactly what it. I mean, it's office gossip, basically.
Yeah.
And it doesn't come out until those moments where people have a couple of drinks and they're like, "I hate him too. Yeah, so annoying. What a piece of shit that guy is."
It's so good.
Oops. Amber. All right. My parting shot is I would encourage people to watch a comedy special on Hulu, which I have not actually seen yet.
Okay.
I've seen the beginning of it. I have not actually seen the whole thing. And the beginning of it is actually not the stand-up part. It's the
They do like an opening skit type thing.
But it's this guy, Byron Bowers, who is an old comedy buddy of mine from here in LA, who I just really get a kick out of. And I'm excited for him that he has a special on Hulu. And I can't say the name of it, but if you look up Byron Bowers, you'll find his special. It starts with the word spiritual, and then the second word is not a word that is allowed to be said out loud.
Okay.
So, and he's just like super funny, and there's something about the way he conducts himself on stage. Like he's just incredibly, I guess charming is the word I would use. Like he's very affable and very likable on stage, almost even, I won't say more than his material, but because his material is great, but he's just so fun to watch.
Yeah, no, I think that's huge in that's that star quality. Like you want to just watch them.
Right. It's a different thing from being a good joke writer or a good joke teller.
And if you've got both,
right.
Ooh, baby.
Right. So that's my parting shot. And this has been The Long Shot. We will see you next week in
Orlando.
By the way, I can't hear Orlando without thinking of that song from Book of Mormon.
How does it go?
Orlando. Oh. It's just, that's where the guy wants to go on his mission. Like everybody's trying to figure out where they're going to go on their mission, and he just wants to go to Disney World. Basically.
Yeah, I wish that I was less judgmental, but like when I was leaving Orlando, there was a bunch of girls who were clearly on a bachelorette trip. Like there was like a girl dressed like a bride. And I was like, you went to Universal Studios Orlando on your bachelorette? Like,
have they not heard about Magic Mike?
Or like a bar, an Airbnb, like I don't know. But okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like and I even one step further than that is like you went to Orlando and you went to Universal Studios. In other words, you didn't go to like, it's like you're
right. That's what I'm saying. Like you didn't even go to the right one.
Right. I know you're not allowed to say that, but yeah.
I know. No, we're very aware of where we stand.
Literally went to Universal Studios for the day and just walked into a bar and stayed there for 4 hours and then left and went home. But it was a long time ago. It was before they had all the rides.
It seems way cooler than the one in LA. Like the rides are better. The ones that I went on
Yeah,
sure.
and I went to the one in LA actually with my parents, and it was classic. It was like, the same thing happened when we went to the Grove. Like, we went to the Grove, my father was like, "This is a fucking mall. What are we doing here?"
You're like, yeah, I know.
This is what we do in LA. Like, this is all there is. And then we went to Universal Studios, and it was like, what the hell are we doing here? Although I will say, my father loved the thing where we rode on the train and it went through all the movie exhibits like Jaws and whatever. He was totally into that. So I was like, oh, thank God we did that.
And that takes like a good hour and a half, 2 hours or something, doesn't it? Like, isn't it long?
I don't think it takes that long, but it's definitely.
But what I mean is, it's not like a 30-second ride.
You go through, Desperate Housewives neighborhood and,
the Psycho House.
One thing where it wasn't like, what the fuck are we doing?
Oh, wait, really? Oh, shoot. That just reminds me, because you go by the Psycho House. Jeff and I recently watched, just because I don't think I ever had, the remake of Psycho.
Shot for Shot, Gus Van Sant.
Yeah.
Weird.
Why did they make that? And it was
sense.
It makes no sense. And it was so poorly cast. And
was it Vince Vaughn?
Yes.
Yes. Crazy.
It doesn't make any sense.
No.
Like, even as he was like talking to her, I was like, he's like, they seem like he's hitting on her. Like, he doesn't seem like a weirdo in a hotel. I don't know. Like,
oh, that is just sent me on another thing, but I do feel like I need to say this because this is going to come out on Wednesday. So this was my train of thought: is Vince Vaughn, loved him in this movie, loved him in this movie, loved him in this movie, hated him in, I think it was called The Breakup, the movie he did with Jennifer Aniston. Just a horrible movie about awful people being terrible to each other. Like, it was not in any way enjoyable. I guess it was supposed to be a dark comedy, but it was fucking awful. But what that reminded me of is that this comes out on Wednesday, and Thursday is the beginning of season 2 of La Brea.
Right.
So please
tune in.
Take a moment, catch up on everything that happened in season 1. Watch the first episode of season 2. Amber and I will be discussing it next week. So I know I'm very excited for it. I don't know how you feel about it.
I'm excited. I mean, yeah. Wow.
I sent you that tweet from one of the sci-fi writers who was like, so this show's a piece of shit, right? And it's like, this is another television writer like attacking another really successful show, which always seems weird to me because it's like, those guys are, I don't know, just, now they're going to fight in a bar. Let's hope there's no raccoons around. Folks, this has been The Long Shot. It is a podcast. Hit the smash, like the subscribe, ring the bell, do the things. We'll see you next week.
Bye-bye.
You told me my torso belongs in a cage. You said I was way too damn big for my age, and I couldn't believe it when you said you'd leave it to me to decide your last name. 'Cause regardless of girth, my alleged date of birth is still relatively the same. And I will remember you assuming I can, if I have enough storage, if I have enough RAM. And if this is broadcast back to the factory, then they're gonna tear me apart. But as long as you know I've got nowhere to go, well, I guess that I'll never be far.